Hello everybody and welcome back to another Nightly Read Aloud with Dr. Ivey. Today is Tuesday, May the 26th, 2020, and tonight marks our 52nd Nightly Read Aloud during school closure. My name is Trevor Ivey and I am a proud educator in Sumter County, South Carolina, and like so many of my educator colleagues right here in my very own community, across the state, the nation, and even the world, are being asked to step up and out of their comfort zone to completely redesign teaching and learning experiences to ensure that our children remain meaningfully engaged during this very challenging time when schools are closed, children are home, but learning must continue. To that end, I have dedicated myself to a nightly read aloud to redirect a sense of normalcy during this very strange time that we find ourselves in. Each school night at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I share a recorded read aloud on my social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And for our 52nd nightly read aloud, during the 11th week of school closure, just a few short days away from the traditional end of the school year, I've decided to share a book titled The Best Teacher in the World that just reminds us of the important role that our teachers have played, not only during this challenging time that we have found ourselves in, but in the everyday life of a child. The Best Teacher in the World is authored by Bernice Charday and Grace Macaron. The pictures are illustrated by Brian Karras. Let's find out what The Best Teacher in the World is all about. Good morning, class, Mrs. Darcy said. Who would like to take this note to Miss Walker? Everyone wanted to go. Miss Darcy was the best teacher in the whole world. She was very pretty and she was very smart. Martin Calafa waved his pencil case in the air. Everything came out, and Brenda Wicker neatly fell off her chair. I'll go, she said. Bunny Rabisi raised her hand too, as high as she could, and she even wiggled her fingers. Ooh, 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 pick me, please. I have decided that Bunny will go this time, said Miss Darcy. And Bunny popped up from her seat. She stood up straight and tall as she passed Brenda. Bunny felt a little kick on her ankle, but she was too happy to care. Miss Darcy gave Bunny the note. It was on a yellow piece of paper. The paper was folded in half, but it was not sealed. So Bunny walked across the room and she heard a whisper. Have a carrot, Bunny Rabbit. Bunny knew it was Raymond saying this. He always made fun of her name. Sometimes it even made her cry. But not now. Bunny was happy and proud. She was taking a note to Mrs. Walker. She held her head up high and wore a big, big smile on her face as she left the room. Bunny closed the door behind her. Then her smile went away. Where was Mrs. Walker's classroom? Bunny didn't even know. Should she go back and ask? No, she couldn't. The others would just laugh at her. Miss Darcy would think she was not doing what she asked her to do, and Bunny would just have to try herself. So she started to walk down the hall. Mrs. Sherman's class was the one right next door, but Bunny already knew that. Mr. Sherman's class and Mrs. Darcy's class got together for recess. Mrs. Stone's class was next across the hall, and Bunny looked on the inside of this classroom. Everyone was copying from the chalkboard. Boring. The next door was closed too. Maybe this was Miss Walker's room. So Bunny opened the door. She hoped no one would notice her, but everyone did. And the teacher wasn't who she thought it was. It was Miss Kyle. May I help you, Miss Kyle asked. The whole class watched, and Bunny's face turned really red. Quickly, she closed the door. So Bunny passed room after room, and she did not see Miss Walker. Many of the doors in the hallway were closed, but she would not open them, not after she just made the mistake in front of Miss Kyle's class. So then Bunny walked up and down the hall again and again. She looked into the library. She looked into the auditorium. There was no sign of Mrs. Walker's class. At last, she went back to her own classroom. The back door was open this time. Bunny waited outside where no one could see her. Miss Darcy was reading about the ugly duckling that turned into a swan, and it was Bunny's favorite story. Bunny wished that she was inside listening to Miss Darcy. She wished someone else had taken the note to Mrs. Walker. Bunny just wanted to cry. But by now, the yellow paper was wrinkled. What did it say? Bunny knew that she could not look, even though it was not sealed. But she just had to. So Bunny decided to open up the note to read it. And it read, Nancy, meet me at Pine Street at 4 o'clock. Signed, Joyce. Bunny put the note back in her pocket and walked back into the room. Did Miss Walker say anything? Miss Darcy asked. Bunny lied. She said, okay. Miss Darcy smiled. Thank you, Bunny. Bunny felt bad all afternoon. She kept thinking about the fib that she just told. She wanted to go back and tell Miss Darcy the truth, but she didn't want Miss Darcy to think that she didn't do what she asked her to do. And now she was not telling the truth. She told a lie. Finally, the bell rang and it was time to go home. It was Bunny's last chance to tell the truth, but the words would not come out. That night, Bunny could not go to sleep. She thought about Miss Darcy. Was she waiting? Was she still waiting for Miss Walker on Pine Street? The very next day, when Bunny got up out of bed, she knew she didn't want to go to school. Her mom came to her and said, "You ready to go to school?" "Wait, your eyes look a bit red." So Bunny decided to stay home. And Mom took the day off from work. They played checkers and cards in Candyville. It should have been fun, but it wasn't any fun. Bunny felt like she wasn't telling the truth over and over. Tomorrow, she would have to go to school and face her fears. So the very next morning, Bunny looked for Miss Darcy in the schoolyard. "Miss Darcy, I have to tell you something," said Bunny. "I didn't give your note to Miss Walker." "I know," said Miss Darcy. "I saw her in the parking lot after school, but you were brave to tell me." Miss Darcy gave Bunny a hug. "Just promise me one thing," she said. "Never be afraid to ask a question when there's something you don't know. All right?" Bunny responded by saying yes, and she hugged Miss Darcy back. Miss Darcy was the best teacher in the whole world. She was very pretty, and she was very smart. What a great book titled The Best Teacher in the World. Just to remind us of how forgiving our teachers can be, how very patient they can be with children as they grow and as they continue to develop into young citizens. And so as we end the school year in just a few short days, and even though we are home and we are not physically in the school buildings and we are able to, bid farewell to the teachers that have shaped children's lives this school year, I hope, boys and girls, that you'll take the opportunity, parents, you as well, to reach out to your child's teacher or teachers to let them know just how much they have meant to you this school year, and particularly even maybe during this time of challenges and when learning has had to continue. And while we're on the very topic of the best teacher in the world, and that includes you parents as well, because you have had to take on this role of being teachers for the last 11, 12 weeks when children are home, but learning must continue. So a great book, boys and girls. I hope that you enjoyed it. Before we say goodnight, before we brush our teeth, before we go to bed, let's take a moment to engage in our nightly reflection with 4 questions, starting with question number 1. What was your most favorite thing about today? Take a moment to share with your parent, your older or younger sibling, fuzzy friend, or if no one is next to you, Share out loud to yourself. What was your most favorite thing about today? Question number 2. What was your least favorite thing about today? Question number 3. What do you hope is going to happen tomorrow? And question number 4. If you could change one thing about today, what would you change? Well, that's it, boys and girls. Have a great night. Remember, if no one has told you they love you today, if no one has told you they care about you today, Dr. Ivey is here to tell you that he loves you and cares about you so very much. Have a good night, everybody.